Welcome to this week's episode of Commerce Central. Last week, Keely and I found ourselves in Washington, D.C., and we talked about a lot of issues. And there are a lot of economic issues happening right now everywhere. And that's something I want to highlight real fast. These issues, whether it's inflation or workforce shortages or housing, they are happening everywhere. And so we should be somewhat optimistic or encouraged by that, because it's not an issue that's novel or specific to us. Everyone's dealing with them. But that's why we went to D.C. So Keely, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so this week, or last week, I guess,
yeah,
we got to go to Washington, D.C. with the D.C. fly-in through the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce. Right. And it was great to speak to our representatives, including both congressmen, past and future.
Well, Congressman Green is still our congressman until November.
Current and future.
Well, and of course, we're being presumptive because Congressman Desjardins still has to be elected, but there's a lot there.
We spoke to our district offices.
Yes.
And our senators, and then also got to meet with the U.S. Chamber.
Yep.
American Farm Bureau. So those were great meetings, just to learn more about what's going on. And like you said, realize it's not just Lawrence County specific.
Yeah, that's right. And so this was Keely's first time to D.C. So we did get to do a little bit of sightseeing in between meetings, but y'all, it was hot.
It was hot. And you have to walk a lot in D.C.
You do.
I wish we could walk a little more here.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Then again, not in this heat and humidity.
Yeah, no, it's kind of rough. But again, some of the major issues that we talked, or I guess we spoke about with the senators and our representatives, are the big issues of the day. Inflation being one of those. And as you can see on the whiteboard behind me, we have some data for you because, well, I'm me and we have data.
Oh, we do.
Yeah. So the inflation rate right now in 2022 is 8.6%. And to look back over the past few years, that's like 7 or 8 times what we've been dealing with. And that's being caused by a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of it is economic stimulus. And when I say economic stimulus, yes, I'm including government spending and direct payments that we got through COVID. I think that does contribute. But there's also another part of that. Increased wages is another form of economic stimulus. So there's all these things, plus supply chain issues.
Causing an influx of money.
Right. So there's an influx of money from every direction into the economy, which, of course, when you have an increased demand, because there's more discretionary spending and a limited supply, prices go up, i.e.,
inflation.
Yes. And so not a good time for anyone involved with the process. But that was one major thing we spoke about. Then we also talked about the energy crisis. Now, what's cool about talking about the energy crisis, and that's what it is, you're talking about petroleum, you're talking about clean energy, and that's kind of this administration's current goal. The problem what's happening right now is you have to look globally, look at the Ukraine, for example, and what's happening there with the war with Russia. And that's something we spoke, I think, with Congressman Green about a little bit, because I think he holds a seat on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And Stephen Shaw, if you watch this and I got the committee wrong, just call me and we'll make it right somehow. But either way, it's interesting because Russia gives us oil and gas and we're buying it, and then we're also stimulating Ukraine's economy, or we're funding their defense. And I'm just like, why couldn't we just not buy gas from Russia? And so that's something we spoke about as far as fixing inflationary pressures on gas prices specifically was what if we were more energy independent? But that's just the inflation part of the game. Workforce shortages, that's something else. And I have some more local data to share with you about that. The current unemployment rate in Lawrence County is 2.9%. But Keely, it's great news. But Keely, tell us about how many unemployed people and how many jobs are available in Lawrence County today.
So per April data, 572 unemployed people in Lawrence County. With 577 jobs currently posted.
On jobsfortn.gov.
So likely higher than that even of unposted jobs. But yes, definitely available, 577.
And again, as we mentioned about that economic stimulus, because it is a workers' market, wages are also going up, again, causing more economic stimulus. It's usually great for workers and it's great for communities. But again, the problem is this 8.6% inflation rate that's eating up any wage gains we're seeing. So these are big issues we're talking, of course. Now, another issue is qualified labor. That's part of that workforce shortage. And this was a report released, I think, 2 weeks ago. The college going rate in Tennessee dropped 11% over the past 5 years. And that's interesting because Tennessee's been a leader in, I guess, tuition-free,
Right.
technical college and community college.
First 2 years free.
That's right.
So it's interesting because although you would think these people could equate to these jobs, it's most likely they couldn't because they're not qualified.
Right. And so we're seeing a lot of issues in the education and university post-secondary sphere might be the best way to say it. But something that we have better, I guess, influence and control over is housing.
Right.
And I don't want to say influence or control because we don't really do that.
We don't build houses at the chamber.
Right. Yeah. We don't do that.
But our community does.
That's right. And we have a lot of members that sell houses, whether you're realtors or you're a developer. But here's some interesting data from Rocket Mortgage that we actually recently got. The recent per square foot sales price in Lawrence County is $139 per square foot. That's across all new builds and existing homes. That is a 26.3% increase since last year.
Wow.
Which is wild. In May, there were only 208 homes for sale, but you have to look at what's happening with the population increase, which is good news for us too. We tracked that. I mean, Keely, you did the whole census thing, right?
Yeah. I was there for it.
Well,
2020.
Yeah, 2020 was a fun
Disaster.
year. That's fair. It's fair. But again, we're growing. There are plentiful job opportunities in Lawrence County and throughout the region, and people want to live here. They're cool with commuting. But from 2020 to 2021, we added 1.5% population growth. That's an annual growth rate. Put that in perspective, we only grew like just under 5% the entire last 10 years.
Yep.
And so we're on track to beat that, in fact, double it if we keep up with that. But
That's correct.
That means 669 people either moved or, I mean, maybe we're born here, but we grew by 669 people from year to year. Now, the talking point there is, of course, this. There's 2.68 people per household, which means
250 families added to Lawrence County just over the last year.
That's right. So again, very high growth area. We're having a really great time with it, but it is causing a lot of challenges. But again, as we mentioned earlier, we're not alone in these challenges. And that's why we partnered together with other chambers across the state to go to Washington and address these issues federally this week.
Right. So it was exciting to get to be a part of it because we were there with Memphis, Chattanooga, Nashville, Williamson County, Kingsport. So great representation from across the whole state, all three regions included. But it was nice to enter meetings with Williamson County and say, look, we have the same perspective, rural to urban. These issues are affecting Tennessee statewide. And so as we as a chamber kind of take on advocacy, and especially pro-business advocacy as one of our strategic initiatives moving forward, be on the lookout for opportunities to interact with not only candidates, because it is an election year, but also elected officials, and make sure, just remind them, think about business, think about the business community, and let's solve some of these problems. You know, common sense goes a long ways, and there's not much of it around anymore. And I hope I'm okay in saying that, but we can solve these. Well, and our congressmen, they were elected to listen to the people. They were elected by the people to listen to the people, but they can't listen to you if you're not talking to them.
Right.
So rural Tennessee, rural America has to have a voice. And that's what we're here for.
That's right. That's one function of your chamber. And so if you have more questions about that, give us a call. If you have an issue and you may not know how to navigate that stream, that's something we are learning better how to do.
Whether on the county, state, or federal level.
That's right. That's right. Well, anyway, we do have a tradition here on Commerce Central, and it's called The Last Word.
So, Ryan, what is the word of the day?
Okay, so the word of the day is advocate. Have I used that one yet?
I don't remember it.
Okay, good.
Ben's going to give us the definition.
On the bottom, but it is my word of the day today because it is, I guess, one role of our chamber, but I think everyone is an advocate, whether they realize it or not, for whatever cause. You know, it might be your family, it might be your church, it might be your community.
Civic organizations, nonprofits. Right.
And it's important to be an advocate and give back to the things that matter. And so we hope that what we're talking about matters. I know it matters to the business community because we hear it from everybody. But again, hope you'll go out there and be an advocate yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Commerce Central. We'll see you next week.